Good afternoon. Welcome to Healthy Lifestyle. I'm Lorianne Casdia. Our goal at Healthy Lifestyle is to inspire, educate, empower others to a fulfilling, healthy, emotional, spiritual, and physical life, so that you can feel empowered to live the life you have always wanted and dreamed. We should lift each other up with encouragement and positivity. And on that note, today we have Vince Perotta, who came back to spend some more time with us to talk about mentoring and other corporate opportunities. How are you today, Vince?
I'm great, thanks. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Thanks for having me back.
It's my pleasure, my pleasure. I was inspired over the last week, so it was exciting, and I wanted to bring up that inspiration. Suffolk County Police Commissioner Geraldine Hart spoke at an event I was at, and she was really, really inspiring. I loved her stories, and it was very germane to so many of the 650 plus attendees to the gala.
She was incredible, and she's had such an experience, such a great career. But I do have to just kind of pause for a moment. You're passing over one of the best parts of the evening, which is the fact that you were among Long Island's most successful women and honored that evening for that. So congratulations to you and your outstanding work in the field.
Oh, thank you, Vince. I appreciate that. I was trying to jump that hurdle.
Wasn't going to let that go.
Yeah,
it was quite a night. No, it was
a good night, right?
It was.
A lot of powerful, it's the top 50 most influential women in 2018. And I was very humbled and honored to be among them.
Well, and it's well deserved. You do a lot of work, and it's funny, the people that are successful in their own right never really look at their own success and accomplishments, but to have the opportunity to have someone take a moment and just say, let's take a look at all that you've done. You really have demonstrated that over the years. So it was terrific to be there and see you receive that award. Congratulations.
Well, thank you very much. And let's jump right away from that. Okay, now I understand where I put people in uncomfortable situations. No, I appreciate it. It's very humbling. But what the police commissioner was talking about, she was talking about how she progressed in her position and the term of being ready. And I found that very intriguing because my philosophy in mentoring people is, why not you? Why not me? Why not you? There's no reason not to be. And recently, I was speaking to one of my clients who I mentor just last week, and she says, well, can I be all of these different things? And so she is a speaker. She writes a book. She's writing a book actually right now. She also is a teacher, and she mentors students. So she does. And I was like, what? Why not? She felt like she needed to pick one. And to which I said, are you a mom? And she said, yeah. And I said, okay, are you a sister, an aunt, a daughter? And she said, well, yeah. Are you a wife? And she says, well, yes, of course. I said, but it's okay to be all those. And you can't be a lot of different things in your profession. So I think it drove the point home that, yes, we hold a lot of hats, all of us, men, women, it doesn't matter, children. We all have different roles, and we wear a lot of different hats. So it's important. And what the police commissioner was talking about, too, was being ready. And I loved how she spoke to her mentor. And I know you're a mentor as well.
I've been a mentor. It's and the interesting thing that I think Commissioner Hart really brought to light, and I was so glad that she amplified this, was the point that you're making about knowing that someone comes to you, asks you, this is an opportunity, why don't you take a look at this? And the instant response, not uncommonly, especially among women, is, yeah, but I'm not ready. Well, yeah, you probably are. Somebody would not have asked or invited you.
Right.
But take the time to take a little bit of stock in yourself. And she did that a couple of times in her career where she was asked, she was told to think about it overnight. The person didn't accept her, immediately dismissing it. And so because of that, she walked through it, and she relied on her husband, her family, her friends, people that she thought really well of, and they helped give her the opportunity to just walk through the logic that said, yes, I can take this chance. I have a lot of skill sets. And that's the thing, is give yourself the opportunity to try, step up to the plate. I also thought that she makes she talks about in her career how many times that she allowed other people to help her get through that.
Yes.
So that was important.
Well, it's important to bounce things off, because so how people view you on the outside is definitely different than how you view yourself. We all are taught, especially women, are taught to be very humble and not to promote ourselves. And I say, no. We need to promote ourselves. Although I was just functioning as a non-promoter just before, so thankfully you promoted me. But we really need to do that. And I find typically, and I'm talking generically and generally, I'm not saying everybody is like this, but typically men have no problem promoting themselves. And you know, I know as a mother of 2 boys, I encourage them to promote themselves. They need to promote themselves, as do women. And I think that's one of the points that she made as well. I loved what her husband said to her. So when will you be ready? When she said she wasn't ready. And she said 6 months. And I thought that was intriguing that she had a number associated with it too.
She did. And her husband walked her through that. And it was kind of interesting because the answer that she received was, well, if this other person takes the assignment and you're ready in 6 months, but the job's not open, how will you feel? And it really helped her understand that she needed to make that decision now. She needed to take a little risk. And in business, we want to mitigate risk. We don't take risk, but that's good risk. And good risk is always worth the opportunity, because typically if someone comes to ask you for an interview or to participate in something, they have every confidence that you can do it. It's actually an opportunity to gauge your confidence in yourself. Whereas if you step up and ask, well, that's when you really may be in a situation where your skills don't align with what it is that you're going after.
Yeah. So the opportunity was brought to her, and you're right. You really do need to take stock of what they are looking at, what they see. They obviously see there's potential. Mm-hmm. Otherwise they wouldn't have offered the job. And
she even acknowledged, which was really fun to hear her talk about, different people playing different roles in her career at different times.
Yeah.
It's, all too often we think, I need a mentor, I need a friend, I need whatever it is to help support me do this. We need a lot of people, and people play different roles at different times in our lives, especially when you're building a career. And one of the things is to surround yourself with several good people. You don't need 100, but you probably need 4, 5, 6 really solid, close confidants.
Trusted.
Yes.
Trusted. I think that's the element. And that's where I'm an advocate for a mentor. It should be someone that you trust, you feel confident in, who's going to be honest with you. Sometimes brutally honest. Sometimes they're going to tell you what you don't want to hear. You don't want a yes person, because if you have a yes person, you could just look in the mirror and get the same answer.
Yes, you're right.
What's the point about that? So did you just ask me? That was awesome. You are listening to Healthy Lifestyle. I'm Lori-Ann Casdia. I was speaking to Vince Perotta, but he has left the building. No, I'm only kidding. We are speaking to Vince Perotta. We're talking about mentoring and recent exposure to Suffolk County Police Commissioner Geraldine Hart. She was very encouraging. And so when do you see obviously you see the need, the advantages of a mentor. What were some of your experiences mentoring? And I found it interesting that you mentored more women than you did men.
I did. And at one point actually had an entire team of women. And
actually you did, huh?
I actually did. And it was interesting because women do approach problem solving skills differently.
Sure.
And you find that working with men and women, you get different responses. You get different views of things. That's why it's important to do that. But you asked about experiences. One of the experiences I had that was really so interesting was to have somebody that I was mentoring review their 360 with me, which is essentially you get an opportunity to provide questionnaires to people who report to you, mm-hmm. people who are your peers, mm-hmm. and then people to whom you report. And then that data is aggregated, and you get a view of yourself, literally like a circle 360. It's hard to hear sometimes. It's easy to say, gee, this sounds really good, but it gives you such a perspective because what it shows you is the blind spots that you have, and it gives you a real opportunity to fix them because people want to help you. Do you always give them the chance to share how? And sometimes we want to listen, but because of multiple reasons and distractions and filters, we don't really hear the message. So doing a 360 with this person, I was able to show them that there were things that they questioned about themselves that turned out to be really great strengths, things that actually made their career drive forward faster and made them more capable, made people want to work with them. And it was things that they didn't see in themselves. Again, we call them blind spots, right, that were the holdbacks. And if you can address that, and you have to be comfortable in your own skin, because you're going to hear some things you may not want to hear.
Sure.
We used to make the joke, bring a flak jacket, because your direct reports can be really candid, but your peers are going to say things to you that you never thought you'd hear. But if you get through it, and you do it with somebody else, you come away with a wonderful plan to help develop yourself. And those who do it and really take advantage of it, you see them really grow to the next level.
Yeah, they rise quickly.
They do.
They rise quickly. You tell a story that I'd love you to share about one of the women you guided who wasn't actually in the right place at the right time. We'll say that. And you helped guide her to set her up with the proper tools to make her be in the right place at the right time. Why don't you share that story with our listeners?
Sure. This was actually a wonderful experience for me, because it didn't start out that way. This person and I were peers. I took a different path in the organization, ended up coming back, and she was my direct report. And I was excited. I picked her, of all the people on the team, I picked her to go work with. And when I went to work with her, I met her that morning, and she just nuked me the second I sat down, and all the things that are wrong and what's going on. And it really was upset about the organization, the way she was being treated. And I was really surprised, because I really had a high assessment of her skill sets. I thought she was tremendously talented, but I could see why there was a perception of her that wasn't as favorable, because some things weren't going her way, and she was helping to amplify it, so it wasn't working out. We talked a bit, and fortunately, because we had a friendship, I asked for trust, because there was really nothing else that I had. I said, if you would just trust me, we're going to work together, but we're going to do some things that are probably going to stretch you. We're going to do some things that you're probably going to be uncomfortable with. And I promise you that the outcome will be exactly what you want, at least, and probably more. So as we went along, it went from initial, okay, I'll trust you, but it's only because of our relationship. Then she bought in. And as she bought in, she became the most phenomenal leader on my team. So my next hurdle was to get her an interview with my peers for an opening to elevate her to the next level. And it was funny, because the conversation that we had was pretty brutal, but because of a colleague that I had who said, if he thinks that she's worth a shot, let's see her. And she came through with flying colors, because the biggest change she had was a more positive attitude. She had more specific experiential things that she was able to do. And she demonstrated to people that was kind of historical. She really had this great perspective and all this talent. And the feedback was not the right time, but definitely the right person. We can't lose her. She became a leader with the organization. She actually went further than I did. And it was wonderful to see. And she was nice enough to actually mention it at a meeting. But it all started with that first conversation to kind of face a tough situation that she probably didn't want to have to.
And that's a valuable gift. I've worked in 2 corporations, and it's a valuable gift to have a trusted mentor. It's a valuable gift to have someone who's within the organization who also gains trust from the executive team, the C-suite as we refer to it, to give people opportunities if you see that they have the talents that may not have been amplified the proper way. So it's a real gift to be able to have somebody you can speak to that you can actually trust. And I want to talk about the trust word. You know, people throw around the word trust a lot. And when we speak of it, what do you mean?
Trust is a very serious thing in business. It essentially is the person who you're able to sit down and lay out currently what the status of an issue or project or situation is, and you can count on their candid feedback to give you good guidance in terms of what you need to think about and consider.
Yeah, and during that process, you need to feel comfortable. I'll utilize that term. With sharing your vulnerabilities, and I think that's where mentorship is really valuable, where you can safely talk about vulnerabilities, and then find the right approach to be able to make those vulnerabilities into strengths.
So it's almost got a little similarity, because I think all things go back to high school. I tell my children that all the time. But if you're in an echo chamber and everybody's saying, "Oh, you're doing great. This is just wonderful," there's something wrong, because none of us are really that terrific. We're all good people, but we have pluses and minuses in our skill sets, right?
Sure.
It's all skill set related. You need somebody who can give you some balance and perspective. And that's the unique thing. Somebody that will look at you and tell you the toughest thing that you probably don't want to hear. That's the person who is probably most valuable. And you know that they're valuable because the follow-on to it is, and here is something we should think about. Let's talk about how we can approach that, how we can fix that.
Sure. Yeah. Because again, I think our goal, especially as mentors, is to make whatever weaknesses or perceived weaknesses, and there are differences between those two, into strengths. So what we think about ourselves, that's a mindset, right?
Right.
And if we have a positive mindset and it's overinflated, we need to get that back in alignment so that it is perceived properly by the outside world. But there's nothing wrong with having a positive perception of ourselves as long as it's balanced.
It should be balanced, but it should be positive, and we should extend that positivity to the task at hand, or to the meeting at hand. All too often, people think you walk into a meeting, you're going to have a conversation. They're looking for the gap, the flaw, right? I'm going to go after that. That's why this won't work. As opposed to, these are the things that are really terrific. I'm a little concerned about this. I'd like if you can help me with this, or can we talk about this? I want to understand, because that's what I see as a challenge for me going forward to execute this. That takes on a different approach, and that gets people invested in helping you, because you're trying to make their project, their plan, or whatever it is, succeed. And that's where you build that camaraderie and that strength.
So what I'm hearing too is language matters, because how you approached it just in speaking just now was very positive. You pointed out something that concerned you, but you also pointed out the positive elements of the project, which made the person who was making the presentation not feel attacked. And in a lot of cases, I think there are many times where people feel attacked. They feel like when somebody questions or asks a question, they're being questioned. They're questioning their ability. And I've always been a proponent of ask me as many questions as you want, because the more you understand, the easier it is for me to get what I need done, accomplished. But there are many people who don't like questions. So, I mean, what's your take on that, Vince?
Questions bring value. So, two perspectives. Questions up front are especially important. Get people involved early. You're working on a project, go around and speak not just to the stakeholders, but there are usually other folks that have tangential responsibility or connection to it.
It's an SAT word. Good for you on a Monday morning.
So get them involved, get them bought in. You start to build those stakeholders in and make it a broader group. The other thing is when you get a question, if you don't have the answer, if you're strong enough to look back and say, it's something I didn't think about, expand on that a little bit for me, or tell me a little bit more about what your concern is. You'd be surprised how the best solutions never begin with the initial idea, but the evolution of that idea through other people asking questions, raising issues, and then all of a sudden this amorphous or this difficult situation suddenly begins to take shape, and people become vested because they feel like, wow, we're working together, I'm helping you.
Yeah, without a doubt. So that language, it's sometimes our language is our own barrier, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And your receptivity. You can tell when you ask someone and you watch their face and you see, wow, that's, I didn't think of that. Or let's talk about that. That's a great question. And there are really good questions, because there's kind of two ends to that. And if both the person asking the question and the person receiving it are doing it in that same positive way or open-minded, it doesn't even have to be positive all the time as much as be open to, can you take a question on a thought or an idea that you have or a project that you're leading and use it to your advantage? Most of the time, people want to help you.
Yeah, I totally agree. I enjoy questions that catch me a little bit off guard. Not that I look forward to it, but that's when I have a learning curve, because I didn't take something into consideration. And there is the value of the collective mind. I'm a huge proponent of the collective mind. More people involved in something. Not there's too much and then there's too little, but more minds involved and more thought process to contribute to the whole 360 look at a particular project or problem or a situation is, I think, very valuable.
There's been so many times, too, where someone will, just because of the questions you ask, invite you to participate.
I totally agree. I want to continue this conversation, so why don't we take a little bit of a break and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Healthy Lifestyle. I'm Lori Ann. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas on topics you'd like to hear more about, please email us at healthylifestyle@gmail.com. So that's healthylifestyle with LA@gmail.com. Or follow us on social media. Well, actually, and follow us on social media at Healthy Lifestyle with LA. Wow, this is quite the day for me. So we are here today with Vince Perotta. We're talking about mentoring, and we were just talking about the value of questions, right, Vince?
Yes, and one of the things that I wanted to raise is that when you're asking questions typically of somebody that's leading a project or sharing with a team, here's what we're trying to approach and do, they'll listen to folks that ask questions, and generally what they find is people that are asking these intelligent questions, providing some insights, trying to get clarity around certain things, those folks will end up being asked to join the team. And there's such a huge value in that because now you've demonstrated your openness, you're going to be part of a key project, and you probably, by virtue of the work that you're doing and the intelligent comments that you're making and contributions, you get yourself to build a raving fan within your own organization. So we're all here to help advance our careers, right, but be successful. That's the best way, is to let other people see your work, see your thought process, and they become an advocate for you by virtue of the things you demonstrate to them.
Yeah, I totally agree. And thoughtful questions are always advantageous to the entire team in the process. And like I always say on the show is we are here to serve one another. And that's a really good way to serve each other, is by asking germane questions that help propel the project forward or bring to light things that perhaps wasn't thought of that might be important to be thought of at this point of the venture. So there's a lot of value, I believe, in questions. That's why I welcome questions. I like them. And it makes me better at what I do. So do you find the same thing, Ben?
I do. And questions really do help you get to understanding. And the more you can learn to question and get people to share with you the information, it's a much better way to build agreement as well. And once you can engineer agreement, it's a platform to build off.
I totally agree. I have a mentoring client who basically was trying to learn how to gain buy-in with the team that they were selling or pitching their thoughts and ideas to. What's your take on the buy-in scenario?
So that's a very strategic thing that needs to be thoughtfully approached. So, but let me be a little didactic in what I mean.
Didactic, you're 2 for 2. Go.
Welcome to Monday. So,
well, it's actually Saturday, but that's okay.
So, as you approach a project and you're looking, I need to accomplish these things. What you think about are who are the people that are involved, and then you take a little bit of time to go to the key stakeholders and you go see them. But how often do we miss the people who may not be key stakeholders, but they're influencers? They're key to the decision-making process. And we don't think about going to them because they may not directly make a decision, but they're key to getting this approved, getting this project funded, whatever the issue is. It's worth the more people that you can speak to, the more you can reach out to, address their concerns, get their questions on the table beforehand. When you walk into that moment where you've got everything coming together, you've already built a nice alliance with them, and they feel that they've had their opportunity. So that big room, that big final moment where you're excited about your project is not the time that it's kind of a shooting gallery and it's they haven't asked their question, so they're going to take it on now.
Right. It's funny. That reminds me of a story I tell about my son. There are times when our children ask us to do something and you're like, oh, I really don't want them to go do that. But one thing I wanted to make sure that my boys had was thinking things all the way through. So not just what's going to happen now, but think it all the way through. What's the end result? If this, then that. Very, very computer directed. If this, then that, right? So he wanted to do something and he came in and he asked me if he could do it and he laid out the reasons why it would be good. And I went to ask a question. He goes, but wait. If this would happen, I think what I would do is that. And he had it all planned out. So he really did think it all the way through, which left me in a position of I had no choice but to back him and support him because he really did think it out. It wasn't anything that would have been detrimental to his health or well-being. But he thought it out. And I love the if this, then that. And my point to that about the buy-in and going to other team members, like you said, who may be influencers as opposed to decision makers is really germane because, again, he knew where I was going to go. He thought out all the different possibilities and he had solutions or options to those possibilities. So what I think happens when you speak to other people who may or may not be in that room, it really gives you a better 360 and prepares you to avoid or be ready for those kind of questions.
Well, and to build on that, as I said earlier, business looks to mitigate risk, not take risk. By speaking to these people, they're going to point out things that you didn't see, concerns that you may not have been aware of. So you'll be able to continue dial down the risk of whatever it is you're working on, whatever project. You'll be able to anticipate some of those things, put those fixes in place, and then you can find a model that replicates that. So you can say, in this scenario, under this circumstance, here's what happened in the past. This is what we can expect. That was especially, I had a role as a product manager, and in launching a product, we were always looking for different types of models that we could use that gave us a sense of what the outcome was. And you could usually find many of the concerns, demonstrate how those things worked out, and give confidence to the people that were involved in the project that we have the right strategy.
Yeah, we do that. I use that philosophy and those techniques for speech prep as well, where someone's preparing for a speech to take all of those unknown proponents and elements and make sure you have parts of it incorporated in the speech, takes away the naysayers who are listening to the speech and gets more of the people involved who are in the audience, who you know are going to be in the audience. So important to know your audience, whether it be promoting or pitching a product or pitching a project or having a speech in front of someone. You really need to look at something as best as you can while you're making that decision and or doing that presentation.
And the naysayers, I'm going to just, if you don't mind, borrow that for a moment, are not necessarily naysayers. If we look at them that way, we'll respond to them that way. They're folks they're bringing a kind of a critical thinking to what the situation at hand is.
Oh, that's just sunshiny, isn't it there, Vince? There are naysayers out there who want to blow you up, who don't want you to succeed. But in order to sidestep something like that, like you said, you don't look at them as naysayers. You just look at them as opportunities to show the rest of the people that you've already been thoughtful of that particular topic.
Right. And if they have a leaning towards, let's say, go or no go, one way, opposite of whatever it is you're looking at, you can either antagonize them a little bit or try to find a more thoughtful way to get them to expand on what they're thinking, get their ideas out there, help them find that bridge that gets them to where you are.
So why would you antagonize them?
Not intentionally, but you'd be surprised. Sometimes we seek to answer a question because our answer begins with, and this is something I point out to a lot of people that I've mentored, no, but, or no, whatever the answer is. You've just told that person no, and they're not hearing anything you're saying after that.
Agree.
Right? Acknowledge that person, reiterate what they just said to you, maybe even ask them a question to explain it, gives them a chance to get that out there. In the meantime, you're also getting a moment to organize your logic and, again, to build that bridge to get them to where you need them to be.
Yeah, that's a very, very good technique. It reminds me of that scene in, remember Big? When she's making he's making the presentation, and the other one is getting the other advertising, not agent, but he's there and he's getting all upset because he's
uncomfortable,
very uncomfortable,
right.
because Tom Hanks, who's playing the character, is questioning the building.
Right.
Remember the building?
Yes.
And he's like, well, yeah, but what does it do? It doesn't do anything.
Right. Simple question.
I don't get it. I don't get it. That comes to mind, right?
Yes, it does. Very good analogy.
It turns into I don't get it. I don't get it. I love that. It's a great movie. It makes me smile. If you haven't seen it, you have to go see it. There are many movies that I haven't seen that apparently Vince has brought to my attention.
There are quite a few movies. This is like educating Rita.
Wow, that was harsh.
Hardly. It was a sweet movie. You probably didn't see that either, so.
And there we go. So on that note, let's talk about teamwork.
Teamwork is interesting because it's bandied about now, and everybody is, I'm on a team, I want to be on a team, I like being on a team, but experiential really counts. So you need to have been on a team, and if not, get involved in something that gets you on a team, because at work, it is more cohesive groups of people that have to come together, and it's people with different backgrounds, experiences, and perspectives. And if you can't collaborate and find ways to, you've got to be able to listen to other people's thoughts, even when they're the antithesis of where you may have been going. Because I frankly feel, and you and I have talked about whiteboarding and stuff, sometimes the worst idea, if you can allow somebody to throw out the worst idea that's in the room, it will spark somebody else's thinking to something else, and you end up with this great solution. But that came because you had this group that was able to work together as a team. They trusted each other. They spent time together. They involved one another in different things. And you also have to be able to allow others to take portions of a project on a team, go off and work on something, and respect their work when they come back. You charge them with something, let them fulfill their obligation, and if they do, be supportive of the result, even if it's not exactly what you may have done.
Yeah, that's an interesting conversation. We've had this conversation before where it's, somebody's wheelhouse and somebody else is trying to jump in on their wheelhouse. And what that does is it creates a barrier between the two parties, because one party who is, maybe this is their subject matter expertise, feels invaded. And that is their expertise. That's one of the reasons why they're on the team. So when you have somebody else not being thoughtful about their observations and or criticizing something that's someone's wheelhouse, as we say, it is. It could be a situation and scenario where there's a discourse occurs.
And I had an interesting experience that I had been on the sales side for several years. Then I moved into a marketing role. And when I moved over to the marketing role, what I found most remarkable was everybody was in marketing would approach me and say, see how hard we work. They wanted to make sure that I could acknowledge that they worked really hard in marketing, because the sales team always suspects that the marketing team isn't as productive, and vice versa. Marketing suspects the same of sales. And it was interesting because once I was in that role, the sales team, because of my time there, the management team would give me latitude on ideas and concepts that I would roll out because I was part of that group. The marketing team would give me an opportunity to share ideas. And it got to the point where they would come in and say, tell me something. I need to run this in front of the sales management group. What do you think? How are they going to react to this? And I would give them some insights to that. So the point of the story is to understand both sides was really wonderful. So as an individual, when you're building your career and you want to be a good team member, you got to be a good follower before you can be a good leader, because followership counts. And part of that is doing different things so you can understand other people's perspective, because that gives other people confidence to speak with you and say, can I ask you this? Or I want to share this with you.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. And I love what you said about being a follower. Being part of the team is just as important as the leadership of the team. A lot of times you've heard too many Indians, too many chefs, right, and not enough Indians, so to speak. Mm-hmm. I see that because everybody wants to be that leadership role. There's really importance to being good at what you do as a member of the team. And that's the difference between really good team members, I think. We all collectively pitch in. We all collectively hear what each other has to say. We may not end up exactly where we want to, but if we trust the process, it should end up in a really good result.
Well, and great leaders usually are the quietest ones in the room.
Yes.
Whereas folks always believe that you're in front of the room. More often than not, you're sitting in the middle of the room or perhaps towards the back of the room, not behind everyone, but with everyone. And you're letting the team evolve and create, and people are working together. So being part of a team, there's a lot there. And it comes back to what we just started talking about earlier, which was trust.
Yep. Full circle back to trust. Yeah.
It always does.
Yeah. And that's the biggest, I think, I'll just say underthought element of teamwork is you have to build that trust. And so these team building exercises and things like that, there are many people who poo-poo them and who make faces about doing team building, but that is an element that you can utilize to create trust. You don't have to go that way, but what it does signify is that you have to spend time together so that you understand the different personalities, because I think everybody comes with it with good intention. And the good intention to do well is the most important, and that desire to succeed are two elements that I know I look for in clients and also in a successful product at the end from a team.
Right. And to your point, actually, that's one of the interesting things. Early in my career, I didn't realize not all too often you're part of a team and they'll say, okay, let's go out and grab a bite together, whether it's lunch, a little dinner in the evening, or drink after work. That was a great time because you get to know one another on a different level. You get to kind of build a little bit of a friendship. And what does friendship build? Friendship builds trust.
Right.
So you come back to the table the next day and you're talking about something, and you had that sharing last night. You found out you both play golf. You found out that you have some other
commonalities, similar experiences help bond.
Yes. And that's where you start to get that team coming together. So I know in my experience, it's not uncommon. I always tried to kind of get that perspective. It's us against the world. I wanted my team to be really close and trust each other. There was nobody like everybody in this room, and we had to do it together. So we would go out and we would break away, because we'd go to these big events, but we would break away, just our team, and we would go off and we'd have a few drinks and some appetizers. And we felt like kind of we were this little bit of a rogue team, but we were close and we worked as a team and we were interdependent. And that just naturally built itself so that when we would attack business problems, we had that trust, but it came from being together. So it's not the only thing, but it is definitely important to get to know people.
Yeah, I think it's important because also you figure out where everybody's strength lies and where someone complements somebody else's weaknesses. And I think that's the best team. That's the kind of team I like to build, where maybe my weakness is complemented by your strength, because you have the strength where I deem something weak for me. And then collectively, by working with you, I can actually strengthen that weakness, because I should take the opportunity to look at that and learn from your strength.
And the way that comes about, though, is so I'm comfortable that I don't do this really well. So I reach out to you because now I know you. I feel a little more comfortable. Lorianne, can I get your help on this? I'm struggling with this a bit.
Right.
It's your strength, so it gives you a chance to shine, right? So that gives you this great opportunity. For me, it's comforting to be able to share with somebody that I trust, that I can get some help. So now and as we work together, we're coming together, we're becoming better teammates. And that's what really starts to change the dynamic of you are a group to you are a team.
Yeah. And that's, again, that brings us full circle back to why I think mentoring is really important, to have a mentor, no matter what level you are in a business or organization. It gives you a safety net. You don't always have people in your organization or around you that you can really speak to on that finite level where you can trust and feel confident that it's confidential
And you should have someone outside of your organization
looking in. Yeah, without a doubt. Because we see different things. I know that I recently, just a really quick story, recently helped one of my clients save their companies. They were going to be actually feeling a hostile takeover and didn't see it coming. Through doing the marketing strategy, I noticed some, let us just say, different things that were unusual. And by taking notice of them and pointing it out, we noticed that that's what was going to transpire, and we averted that problem.
It's enormous to bring in an outside specialist to get that perspective, to have somebody who can look critically at your business that you know is going to be able to help you and give you insights. So that's really a key advantage that you can give yourself in any business you're in.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, I thank you so much, Vince, for being here. I hope you come back again. We can continue and have this conversation for hours because there's so many things we can touch upon. I'd love to bring you back.
Thank you. I'd love to come back.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us today on Healthy Lifestyle. My heart is always lifted by sharing this time with you, and I want to thank Vince for coming on today, and of course our producer Brian, who's outstanding. In the meantime, follow us and send comments to us on social media at Healthy Lifestyle with LA. If you miss our interviews or would like to hear some previous interviews, look for us on SoundCloud. And remember, do a little something for yourself every day. It starts there. It doesn't have to be big, but definitely take a moment. Create the habit, create a new balance. Thank you again for joining us on Healthy Lifestyle. I'm Lori Ann Casdia. Until next time, show up for you, show up big.